Hi, Jake. You're going to receive 4 messages from me and some associated links to videos. Um, and the intent is to try to get you to participate in a group that I'm calling the 10. The 10 people, okay, who selected them? I did. And who am I? Well, I'll talk about that in a moment. But the 10, here's the list. You see your name on it, along with several other people. I'm sure you know their names. So how did I select these people? Why did I select them? So in other words, why me? Well, all of these people, they're famous or semi-famous. They're educated and intelligent. And they've all, multiple times in the public forums, have expressed a desire to pursue the greater good. Now, if you talk about these 3 traits, these are the exact same traits that the revolutionaries back in the 1700s, back before the Declaration of Independence and all during that, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, all that, it's exactly the same traits that those people had. Exactly the same traits that caused them to talk about all of the horrific things that were happening at the time, and to see the visionaries, to see a future that was different than the past or the present, and to weigh the risks of basically treason against the King of England, and deciding that it was worth the risk, it was worth the effort to try to go from where they were to this vision for a better future. And so I'm trying to get the 10 to be the nucleus today, to make a similar change between where we are now and the future. Now you say, well, you mentioned the word treason. I'm not in any way, shape, or form talking about treason today. Okay. The government itself, the structure of the government itself, is quite robust. And how do we know this? Well, because 2.5 years ago, roughly, we inserted probably one of the worst people that we could ever choose into what most people consider to be the most important position in our entire government. We inserted a nuclear bomb into our government, and yet it persists. Yet it continues. Yet it operates. Okay? Now, many people that say, well, it's not as good as it was. Okay. Fair comment. But the reality is, it's functioning still, much as it did more than 3 years ago. Okay? So the structure, the fact that we put this incredible, acid test, if you will, the nuclear weapon in this thing, and it still operates, that says that the structure is strong. The structure is strong. So what's wrong? Well, what's wrong is the people like Donald Trump and other people that we have put into this government structure. It's not the structure itself, it's the representatives, senators, and president that we insert into that structure that is failing us, that is preventing us from being much better than what we are, and doing so much more than what we're currently doing. It's the candidates. And so where do they come from? Well, they come from our 2 political parties. So there's nothing in the Constitution about 2 political parties, as you well know. They just exist, and we've accepted them for decades. Okay? Now, what's true about the political parties, especially today? It's probably been true about the political parties pretty much forever. Well, they're run by dozens or hundreds, but dozens of people with an agenda to accumulate wealth, influence, and power. Okay? And so they clash because they're trying to accumulate wealth, influence, and power. These are people who would be king. be quite honest. Okay? They are people who would be king. And what happens because of the way that we currently identify candidates and try to elect them and then succeed in electing them? Well, you bring forth candidates who at least have a portion of their personalities who would be king. You say, well, how do you know that? Well, I know it because there's no way that a person that just wants to serve their country would go through all of the, tour bus things and eating all the fried foods at the Iowa State Fair and all of the rhetoric and hate and discontent and handshaking and sleepless nights and traveling all over the place to just serve their country. You just imagine, I was an officer in the United States Navy. Do you think I would go on, if I had to raise $100 million to be an officer in the United States Navy, do you think I would have done it? No. You know what I'm saying? There has to be a portion of their personality, at least a portion, who wants to be king, that craves that adulation and stuff like that. So here we are in the current system, butting heads, and here we are at this future where all of that other stuff is gone, and we just are finding candidates and electing them to our government positions. We're finding candidates that are intelligent and reasoned and reasonable, and frankly, they just inherently want to serve. So that's a future state. Here's the current state, and there's a chasm in between. So Jake, how do we get from one side of the chasm to the other? Well, that's where the 10 comes in. That's exactly the same struggle that we had when we tried to go from being colonies under Britain, under the British, to an independent nation. There was a chasm in between, and there was a small cadre of people that helped the nation go from point A to point B. And so that's what I'm offering to do, to try to facilitate that, to try to facilitate people who can have that influence to make that change in chasm, across the chasm. Now, I, for a couple different reasons, mostly to represent a potential, future, back in January, I went ahead and filed with the Federal Election Commission, and I'm a bona fide, candidate for President of the United States. I'm an independent candidate for President of the United States. But I'm not going to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm not going to tour on buses and stuff like that. I represent a future state, a state where people, are identified who will do a great job serving, and they just, are put in the position. They serve, okay? So and the other reason why I did it is because I'm trying, anytime that you're really talking about changing some significant system or something, it's good to try to, delve into it, to participate in the middle of it. So try to understand it better. So who am I? Well, the second message that you receive has a link to a video on it. And in that video, I tell a story. I tell, I think, one of the most significant stories in my life. And by telling that story, I think I can succinctly and efficiently tell you who I am better than anything else I could do, basically. I apologize for the video. It's not short. It's 30 minutes. And it probably, you might feel like it starts a little bit slow. But if you're the person that I think you are, I warn you that toward the end of that video, toward the end of the 30 minutes, there's a good chance that you're going to shed more than a few tears. And then the third and fourth messages and the associated videos all talk about how do we, it's a straw man proposal kind of thing, and I try to embellish this whole concept about where we are now and where we could be, and how we could try to get across the chasm to a future state, and why I think that future state is so much brighter than the current state. And so I hope it provokes a lot of thought on your part, and I honestly hope that it causes you to want to participate in this nucleus that would allow the country to go from where we've been in the past and where we are today to a better and brighter tomorrow. But only you can answer that question. Only you can make that decision. So until you do, well, bye for now.